Hello there. Thank you for being here with me today. This isn't a fairy tale. This is a true story, my story. A person who once got fired, but that very moment turned out to be the biggest turning point in my life. If you're feeling lost, directionless, or like the world has turned its back on you, stay with me. Because this video might just change the way you see failure and how you rise from it. And today, I'm going to tell you the story. I got fired, and I did these 3 things to become more successful than him. It's not just a story to hear. It's something for you to take and make your own. 1. Got fired, but it was the beginning, not the end. I remember that morning so vividly. It was a Monday that seemed completely ordinary. I made my coffee like I always did, put on my neatly ironed shirt, caught the bus to the office, clocked in with my employee badge, and sat down at my usual desk near the window. I even started the day by checking emails and going over reports. There were no signs, none, that this would be my last day at work. Around 10 a.m., my boss called me into his office. His eyes weren't cold, but they also lacked the usual warmth. A white envelope lay on the desk. I knew what was coming, even though no one had said anything yet. When he told me the company was restructuring, that it wasn't my fault, and that they deeply appreciated all my contributions over the years, it all sounded like a speech prepared for anyone being cut from the team. I nodded, trying to keep a calm face, but inside it felt like someone had just hit me hard. As I packed my things into a small box, a few books, my coffee mug, some personal trinkets, I felt like a failure. My coworkers looked at me with a mix of pity and discomfort. Some came over to shake my hand, others just looked away in silence. I walked out of that building feeling like I had just been pushed out of the world I once thought was secure. I didn't go home right away. I wandered through the familiar streets, past the cafes I used to visit. I asked myself what I was going to do next. I thought about the colleague who got to stay. He wasn't as skilled as I was, but he knew how to flatter the boss, how to speak up at the right time, how to maintain relationships. And clearly, in this game, those skills had helped him survive. I told myself, I will be more successful than him. Not out of revenge, but to prove that I can get back up, move forward, and go even farther than those who seem to have beaten me. That was the beginning. 2. The first thing. I invested in myself like never before. Right after I lost my job, I didn't rush into job hunting like many others. I decided to spend the first 2 weeks simply resting, then laid out a detailed plan to upgrade myself. The first thing I did was write down every skill I had ever possessed and everything I wanted to learn. I asked myself, if I want to become the best version of myself, what do I need to be good at? What skills do I need to make myself irreplaceable so that no one can ever underestimate me again? I chose to learn programming, something I had always found fascinating but never dared to pursue. I enrolled in an online course and studied 6 to 8 hours a day as if it were my new full-time job. I learned product thinking, how to write clean code, how to use GitHub, and how to collaborate in a tech team. No one was paying me, but I treated it as a life or death investment. In the mornings, I studied theory. In the afternoons, I practiced by building small projects. I posted my learning progress and early articles on LinkedIn, partly to stay motivated. I connected with people in the industry, joined study groups, and received advice from people I had never met. After 3 months, I could build a simple e-commerce website, write back-end APIs using Node.js, and deploy them to the cloud. More importantly, I had regained confidence, the very thing my former company had taken from me when they let me go. When you invest in yourself, you don't just gain skills, you learn how to take control of your life. I'm grateful for the time I was unemployed because it forced me to look inward and ask, who am I really without that job title? And that was the first step toward surpassing that old colleague of mine. 3. The second thing. I built my personal brand and network like a true entrepreneur. Once I had a solid foundation in my new skill set, I realized something very clearly. Being good isn't enough. If no one knows you're good, it's as if you're not. So I began to explore personal branding, a concept I had once thought was only for celebrities. I started with the basics: a professional LinkedIn profile photo, a clear self-description that highlighted my achievements and outlined my goals. Every week, I posted something: lessons I'd learned while studying programming, things I discovered while working on projects, or mindset shifts I'd gained from my failures. At first, only a few people saw my posts, but slowly, my network started to grow. Other developers began commenting. Industry professionals started connecting with me. I attended online meetups and webinars, not to look for jobs, but to listen, learn, and build real relationships. A major turning point came when I was invited to speak at an online workshop for beginner programmers. I shared my story, getting fired and starting over. After that session, I received a flood of thank you messages, and one of them was an offer to freelance on a small startup project. I realized that when you're honest, when you're brave enough to share even your failures, you're not weak, you're inspiring. My personal brand wasn't just about what I could do, it was about the story I was living. I kept growing my network by actively helping others, debugging code, reviewing projects, offering suggestions. Every time I helped someone, I learned something too. More importantly, I became a trustworthy person in the community. In just 6 months, I was no longer the person who got fired. I was a programmer with real projects, a real community, and a real voice. The third thing, I created value and income from my passion. And that's when I truly surpassed him. I never thought that one day, something I quietly loved could become a source of income. But it was when I stopped chasing the safe job and began building everything from my passion that my life entered a completely new chapter. I've always loved sharing and explaining, perhaps because I once dreamed of becoming a teacher. While learning programming, I realized that not only was I good at absorbing information, but I was also good at explaining difficult concepts in a way that was easy to understand. I began creating short tutorial videos for beginners, showing how to set up an environment, how to debug, how to write effective functions. I posted them on YouTube and TikTok without expecting much, just hoping to help someone. To my surprise, those videos started to gain views. Some young people messaged me, "Thank you. Your video helped me understand this concept after struggling for days." Others suggested that I create a paid course. At first, I declined, as I wasn't confident that I was skilled enough. But after many messages and suggestions, I began creating an online course for beginners. Short, no fluff, just the practical things I had learned and done. I designed the course to be simple, affordable, and focused on real value. I didn't run ads. I only shared it on LinkedIn and in community groups. Yet, in the first month, I had over 100 students sign up. Not only did I start earning income, but I also felt a deep sense of fulfillment, because I was helping others walk the path I once walked. From there, I started a blog, wrote an ebook, and partnered with an educational platform to create more in-depth content. My income grew steadily each month, not just from freelance programming work, but also from teaching and sharing knowledge. And what about that old colleague? I heard that he's still working at the same company, still holding that same position, still doing the 9 to 5 grind. There's nothing wrong with that. But I know I've moved beyond that. I didn't just overcome the shock of being fired, I turned it into the biggest turning point of my life. I used to fear being judged. Now I don't need to compare myself to anyone because I've found my own path, a path no one can fire me from. When I had developed my skills, built my personal brand, and expanded my network, I began to think about creating something more lasting, not just working for someone else or taking freelance projects. I wanted to create real value from my passion and turn it into a stable, sustainable source of income. I started by writing about my entire journey of learning programming, from zero to becoming able to work independently. I turned it into an in-depth blog, not just sharing technical knowledge, but also my real story, real emotions, and the times I failed. To my surprise, the blog attracted thousands of readers in just a few months. Many people messaged me to thank me because they were also on their own journey of learning, starting over, and they saw themselves in my story. Next, I started a YouTube channel where I shared basic programming knowledge, taught small projects, and reflected on the lessons I had learned from hands-on work. In the beginning, I filmed with an old phone and edited videos with free software. No fancy equipment, no perfection. But I always made sure of one thing. I shared honestly and provided real value. The channel gradually grew. I started receiving collaboration offers, promoting programming tools, courses, and even people offering to pay me for personal coaching. I no longer had to search for a job. The job found me. I didn't need to ask others for opportunities. I created opportunities for myself. But what made me feel like I had surpassed my old colleague was not the increasing income or the growing recognition. It was when I realized I didn't need to please anyone to stay. I didn't need to flatter anyone, and I didn't have to pretend. I could be myself, and I succeeded because of that. I clearly remember one day I received a message from a final year IT student. "Hey, I was feeling really discouraged because I couldn't understand anything. But after watching your videos, I feel hopeful. I will try again from the beginning, just like you did. Thank you for not giving up." I cried. When you create real value, not to prove something, but because you genuinely believe in what you're doing, that's when you truly win. I don't need to compare myself to anyone anymore. I don't need to compete with someone who was once kept around. Because now, I've created a life that no one can fire me from. Conclusion: don't let others decide your destiny. When I look back on my journey, from the day I was fired to the moment I rebuilt my life, I realize one thing. Failure is not the end, but the beginning of something greater. What I once thought was a failure turned out to be an opportunity for me to change, to rise above myself, and to achieve things I never thought possible. I did 3 major things to succeed beyond the colleague who was kept on after I was fired. Investing in myself. I didn't let time pass in sadness or disappointment. I learned a new skill, not for any reason other than wanting to grow personally, and I turned it into a tool to make a difference. Building my personal brand. I learned how to share my story clearly and sincerely. When you truly are yourself, you'll attract opportunities from like-minded people. Creating value and income from my passion. Not stopping at learning and building small projects, I built a long-lasting foundation. I realized that I didn't need to wait for opportunities from others. I could create opportunities for myself. This journey wasn't easy. It required patience, determination, and sometimes pain. But it taught me that failure is just a stepping stone to greater things. No one can decide your future except you. Don't let anyone put a period at the end of your story. Keep writing it with your own hands. Looking back, I realized a simple truth. When you rise after a failure, you are stronger than ever before. And that's exactly what I did. I didn't just stand up. I went further, surpassing even those who seemed to have succeeded more than I did. And I hope that, if you're in a situation like mine, feeling like everything is falling apart, You'll remember this. This is not the end. This is the moment you can change everything. Final words. Finally, I want to send a message to those facing difficulties, failures, or feeling left behind. Don't be afraid. Remember, failure is just a part of your greater journey. Invest in yourself, build your personal brand, and create value from your passion. Because only when you truly believe in yourself and the path you've chosen will you see that success is not far away. What I have today is not due to luck or opportunities from others. It comes from my own decision. The decision not to give up, not to accept failure as an end, but as an opportunity to start again. If I can do it, you can too. Start your journey today, because your future will never be written by someone else. And so, my story, from being fired to succeeding beyond those who seem to have won, has come to an end. I hope that my story has inspired you to step out of your comfort zone, challenge yourself, and find your own path to success. With this conclusion, the script is long enough and delivers a powerful, inspirational message. Thank you for patiently following along with the journey of my story.